Alright, today we're going to look at multi-step equations with variables on one side. So I'm going to skip over this slide because we already looked at like terms and combining like terms in detail. And I'm also going to skip this distributive property because we've looked at that as well. But right here is what we're going to focus on. These are our steps for solving multi-step equations. So whenever you're solving multi-step equations, the first thing that you want to do is distribute if it's necessary. There may be many problems that we come across where you do not have to distribute. The second thing you want to do is combine the like terms on each side of the equation. The third thing you're going to do, I'm going to skip until we get to the next section because right now we're only going to have variables on one side of the equation, so we are going to fill that in our notes on Monday. And for our fourth step there, we're going to solve the one or two step equation that we have left. So let's look at some examples. So here is our first example. We've got 2x plus 3x equals 25. So I like to put my line right down here through the middle. That first step I was supposed to do was to distribute. And let me change the view a little here so you can see this a little better. The first step that we're supposed to do is we're supposed to distribute. We do not have anything to distribute here. So we're going to skip that step, and our next step is to combine like terms on each side. So over here on the left side, I've got 2x and 3x, and those are like terms, so I can combine them. 2 plus 3 is going to give me 5x, and that will be equal to 25. And once you have combined like terms, at least for these problems, it's going to get you down to either a one or a two-step equation. So right here we have a really simple one-step equation. 5 times x, the opposite of multiplying is dividing, so I'm going to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so that's going to cancel out, just leaving me with x. And over here, I'm going to have 5 as my answer. Now remember, you can always check these answers. I'm not going to check every single one on this, but let's check this first one just to make sure this is right. So 2 times 5 plus 3 times 5 is supposed to equal 25. So 2 times 5 is 10, and 3 times 5 is 15, and 10 plus 15 does in fact equal 25, so that verifies that this x equals 5 is the correct answer. Alright, let's look at our next problem here. For this problem, I'm going to start by drawing my line right here, reminding me that nothing can go from one side to the other unless I use an inverse operation. And so here we do have 3 times 2x minus 4, so this 3 does need to be distributed here. So we're going to multiply both of our terms by 3, and 3 times 2x is going to give us 6x, and 3 times negative 4 is going to give us negative 12. So we get 6x minus 12 on the left-hand side, and this is equal to 24. And we're trying to get this x right here by itself. We want to start furthest away from the x, so this 12 has to go first. We're going to add the 12 to both sides. That will cause the 12 to cancel here. We'll just have a 6x on that left-hand side. And 24 plus 12 is 36. And now we've just got one step left. We've got 6 times x. The inverse of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide here. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to have x equals 6 for our answer here. We could plug this back in and check. I'm not going to make us do that on every single one because it'll take us a while to do, but we could if we wanted to here. Okay, here's our next one. We've got 10 equals 2n minus 5 minus 3n. So there's nothing to distribute here. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to combine our like terms. So 2n and negative 3n. Remember, when you're combining those like terms, this negative goes with that 3n. So 2 plus negative 3 is going to give you negative 1n minus 5. If you want, you could just write that negative n minus 5. But a lot of my students usually like to write that negative 1 to help keep them straight. Now, we're trying to get this n right here by itself. And so we need to get rid of this -5 over here first. So the inverse of subtraction is addition. We're going to add 5. If we add 5 to the right-hand side, we've got to add 5 to the left-hand side as well. So here we get 15 equals -1n. Now, a lot of students will be tempted to add 1 to both sides because you see that -1, but that is a -1, and it is being multiplied by that n. And so we know the inverse of multiplication is division. So we have to divide on both sides by -1 in order to isolate that n right there. So -1 divided by -1 is +1. That cancels. And so 15 divided by -1 is -15. And that is going to equal our n. So here's our answer for example 3. Okay, for example 4, we've got -3 times x minus 5 plus 10 equals 1. And so we've got -3 times x, and then -3 times -5. So we'll have -3x. -3 times -5 is going to give us +15 plus 10 equals 1. Notice I did not distribute this -3 to the 10 because it's not inside of the parentheses. Now, distributing is our first step. The second step is to combine like terms. Now, technically, you could subtract 10 from both sides, and that would be correct, but it's really a best practice to combine these two terms here first. So you would have -3x plus 25 whenever we combine that 15 and that 10. And that would equal 1. Again, we're trying to get the x isolated here. So we need to move the 25 to the other side. We can do that by subtracting 25 from both sides. We'll end up with a -3x on that left-hand side. And then we've got to do 1 minus 25. And, of course, 25 is larger than 1 here. So we're going to get -24. And then our last step here is we've got -3 times x because these two are right next to each other. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by -3. And we divide by -3, not a +3. You don't change the sign when you're talking about multiplication and division. That's only for addition and subtraction. So -3 divided by -3 is 1. You're just left with an x here. And then -24 divided by -3 is going to give us a +8. And that will be our answer for example 4. Okay. I'm going to add a couple more examples here. So for example 5, we are going to have 2 times x minus 3 minus 3 times 2x minus 7 equals, let's see, hold on just a second. Let's see. I have this equal -1 here. So whenever we want to solve this equation, we're going to begin by distributing our 2 and then also distributing this -3. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times -3 is -6. Then we'll have -3 times 2x, which will give us -6x, and -3 times -7, which will give us +21. Make sure whenever you do this that you distribute that negative whenever you're distributing your 3. And this is equal to -1. The next step that we want to do is we want to combine our like terms. Yes, it is true. You could subtract 21 from both sides. Technically, that could eventually get you to the right answer. But I find that students who are the best equation solvers, they combine their like terms here first. So you've got a 2x and a negative 6x. They're on the same side. We're just going to combine, and that's going to give us negative 4x. We also have a negative 6 and a positive 21. So if we do negative 6 plus 21, that is going to give us a positive 15. So we'll have plus 15 here equals negative 1. All right, still trying to get that x by itself. So if we subtract 15 from both sides, then we'll be left with negative 4x equals negative 16. And then we need to divide by negative 4 on both sides. So x is going to equal positive 4. And positive 4 is our answer for this problem. Okay, I've got one more problem that I want us to do. So for example 6, we're going to have 5x plus 20 over 4 equals 5. Okay, so we want to solve this equation. Now, this causes some students to panic because you've got a fraction here. It looks like a fraction, but it's not actually a fraction. This over 4 is division, and the opposite of division is multiplication. So if you multiply both sides by 4, what happens there is you multiply it in that numerator by 4, and the 4 can cancel on the top and bottom because 4 divided by 4 is 1. And so that gives you 5x plus 20 equals 20. And then we are going to subtract that 20. Now right here is where students start running into problems. We've got 5x equals 20 minus 20 is 0. 0 is a number. It's okay that this is happening here. It's okay that you've got a 0. A lot of students at this point will write no solution or something like that because they ended up with a 0. But 0 can be an answer. So we're going to continue on. We're going to divide both sides by 5. Oops, 5 flipped upside down. And x is going to equal 0. So 0 is the answer. It's not undefined. It's not no real solutions or infinitely many solutions or anything of that nature. The answer is 0. If you plug 0 back in, you can see that it's the correct answer. So 5 times 0 plus 20 over 4 would be 5 times 0 would be 0 plus 20 over 4. 0 plus 20, of course, is 20 over 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5, which is what you're supposed to get on the other side of the equation. So your answer here is 0.